people hear the word accountability, it scares them. They feel like a negative thing somehow. But that's only negative if you're doing it out of a place that is negative. So what I mean is, if you come from a place of love and of caring for people, then holding them accountable, it's demanded and expected. If you don't hold people accountable because your best talent, either going to leave you or they're not going to perform anymore.
So welcome to Escape the CEO Doom Loop, where we talk with real-world CEOs about the challenge of building a great business without losing your vision, energy, or sanity. I'm John Nikovich, joined by my co-host and business coach, Glenn Dahl. Today, we're joined by Keith Nichol, CEO of Carrera Capital Advisors. Keith, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
I appreciate you guys having me.
I met Keith a year and a half ago at one of our CEO Playbook events. He and I have had a couple meetings and lunch and a little bit. I guess with that, Keith, let's kind of jump in and say, can you provide an overview of your organization? What does your firm do? And how did you end up in the CEO seat?
So Carrera Capital Advisors is a full service private wealth advisory firm, an independent RIA. So we're not beholden to, any said custodian. We are our own entity. We are our own business. We serve clients across 41 states. We're headquartered here in Troy, Michigan, and we have a full set of investment team, op team, advisors that both are in Carrera Capital Advisors itself, but also that we provide services to where they can kind of flagship as their own entity, but we're providing all the back office support too as well. So a couple different platforms within the platform, all around, servicing the advisors so they can create the best outcomes for the clients. And it's a self-perpetuating kind of wheel that way.
So
Nice.
I know you were working, in the business for quite a while. How did you get to the point where you became CEO of Carrera? How did that happen? Why did it happen? What's it been like as you went from being somebody that was managing clients to now, managing a company? What's that transition been like for you?
I started off as a solo advisor by myself, no team, no nothing, at a large institution. And there's no playbook. There's no book of numbers to call. It was me starting on my own, being trained, and which actually was a great thing because it taught me how to speak to clients, do the right thing, provide great service, and provide great outcomes. But then what happened was we continued to scale up, brought on more and more clients. We had a lot of success early, which certainly helped the quick scale. And then we had great team members that came on board. I brought on one of my closest friends, Jake Raska. He was a management consultant in Chicago. He jumped into the business as well. We worked somewhat in tandem. He was starting his business, but I was just, was a couple of years ahead. He's doing great too and growing. Fast forward a few years, we have a few staff members that we're sharing informally. And an opportunity was identified to go and acquire a very successful book of business in this institution and to become a succession plan for that advisor. And he was a fantastic advisor, still is, but had a great business that he was operating, but he was getting ready to retire and he needed a succession plan. And not many people could handle that business on their own. So we were a great fit for that. At that time, I think we were 33 or 4. Fast forward another 18 months, we finalized all the due diligence, acquired the book of business, conceived Carrera, and then went fully independent shortly thereafter, because we did that purchase inside that institution that I was mentioning. Went fully independent and converted into an RIA. So we're a completely independent model now. And so that was what thrust me into that CEO seat, was the curation of Carrera Capital. And then it was put on steroids once we went independent in terms of the operational dynamics that I had, because again, we were in the large institution helping with so much of the background noise. Now we're on our own. You have to run a real business. My transition has been pretty aggressive from being an advisor with a hybrid of being an executive to now CEO is my primary seat 80% of the time, 20% of the time is servicing clients.
Keith, what's an RIA? Not familiar with that term.
Yeah.
You're a registered investment advisor.
Got it. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So I love that you said that you're 80% in the CEO seat and then still 20% in the business, right? Doing work. And I think you probably know, I know you knowing John and probably aware of what we call the CEO doom loop, which is what we had identified in the CEO playbook when we did the research for that. And it's a lot of CEOs as they scale, as their company scale, many CEOs, they find it really challenging to make that differentiation from moving from working in the business to on the business. And part of that is being able to build a true leadership team below them. And that doom loop is many times where they're diving back into the business and feel like that's their value is, hey, I got to fix this. I've got to fix this. I'm the only one that could fix that. And really, as you've probably learned, that really the best way to really scale your company is to empower those people, bring in the right people, and then for you to really be working on the business as CEO, right? You familiar with the
Yeah.
concept?
Absolutely.
All right.
I've studied more up on it. Well, one, I became very educated on it and talking to John, and then
Yeah.
then I started to research it more. Once I started hearing what that was all about, because it doesn't have not a positive connotation, right? It doesn't sound very good. So
No.
I want to make sure I avoid whatever that is.
You avoid it.
And
That's what,
yeah, but to your point, it's so true. Like it is all about people. And for me, like one of the biggest blessings I have in my business is that, Jake, who I mentioned, is a
Mhm.
very operation based individual, very in
Wow.
the weeds, very systems and process oriented. He was a management consultant in his prior life. So like that's how he thinks when it comes to running a business, where I'm much more kind of visionary based and about scale and growth and those types of things. So
Yep.
it's this yin and yang we have going. So that's a massive blessing to go into a business with somebody like that, who there's complements, like a Venn diagram in some ways. And I know a lot of people don't necessarily have that off the bat, but we did, and that's been very helpful. And then we built out our C-suite from there. And then, of course, a great operational team kind of based off of off those EOS kind of principles. That's been a big advantage for us.
Did you ever feel, if you look back and say, wow, even though it's not a place I wanted to be or want to be, I probably was in the doom loop at that point in time?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not scaling and growing at times. The doom loop, as you research it, can be viewed in a bunch of different ways. And it's all about, at the end of the day, are you putting your business in the best position to win or aren't you? Like that's how I kind of interpreted a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of times this happened to me now. It's all I think about is how I can put ourselves in the best position to win now and growing forward. But when I look back at when we weren't independent and then going independent, it just felt like you're going backwards because you're trying to get to another place. Like for me, going independent, trying to get to another place, like you couldn't focus on bringing on new business and growing because you're trying to move on to a different platform. So for me, that was probably the biggest version of like a doom loop was, I'm pushing this for the massive growth, but I'm also like at the same time getting pulled in a way that's like forcing us to go the other way. And then also it's like sometimes you're just so focused on being in the business, you're not actually working on making it better. And you're just like, man, I'm taking 2 steps forward to take 1.5 back. And you're just very, 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 very slowly growing as opposed to having explosive growth. So 5 years ago, I went through a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is every CEO goes through it, right? I mean, we didn't know that when we did the research, and it came back as this theme that the vast majority of CEOs kind of felt that way. And I was in the CEO seat 3 times, and there were days like I felt like I was going to jump off the plank into shark-infested waters, and that kind of seemed better than what I was dealing with, right? I mean, it's hard, right? And I just don't think until you're in the seat that you realize it. So next question, and I really love this one a lot because I think sports is a lot about running companies. I think it parallels itself really closely. One of the things I think is really cool is your background as you played, college football at the Division I level. So talk a little bit about kind of how your background experience of playing college football has really shaped how you think about running a business, how it shaped you as a CEO, and then what coaches really have been the most impactful and significant for you as you look at your journey as a CEO also.
Yeah. College sports has shaped me 1,000% into who I am in terms of business and how I go about things. I've been very fortunate to be around some of the greatest coaches, Hall of Fame coaches, and played for them. I started my career at Oklahoma, so I played for Bob Stoops. He taught me what it means to surround yourself by elite success. If you can have great athletes surrounding you at every position and building tremendous depth, having the best coaches, a lot of success can take care of itself just by having tremendous talent around you. played for him, and he was awesome. He was a great delegator too, and trusted his coordinators and his staff. Like, he was incredible at running an organization that way. And then played for Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State. The aura, the confidence, the intensity that this guy brought, and just the way he lived his life. Tremendous character, the ultimate competitor, a silent killer in a lot of ways. Like I really resonated with his personality a lot, and still have a tremendous relationship with him. And, he kind of showed me that you can be really successful in your business. So for him, it was football, but also have a tremendous family and to make them a priority. And there's not one or the other, because he had both. And then I was surrounded by Tom Izzo my entire life at Michigan State, and I was a Michigan kid, looked up to him and all the success they had. And he talked about being a competitor and holding people accountable. Nobody does it better than him. The way he holds people accountable, still, like, I'm aspiring to try to grow into that. And that's been his definition of success, is like, he is accountability. Like, it's incredible. So those are lessons I've learned all from those guys.
Yeah. Do you think Izzo and the way he holds people accountable, how does that play in the professional world? I mean, it's different when you're, it's different today because of NIL, right? But things change a lot. But what's that look like when, somebody's coming to work for you versus I'm a college kid playing basketball for somebody and they're kind of shaping my future? What's that look like for you?
Well, I think when people hear the word accountability, it scares them, and they feel like it's maybe like a negative thing somehow. But that's only negative if you're doing it out of a place that is negative. So what I mean is, if you come from a place of love and of caring for people, so that's one of our pillars, to have genuine care for people. That's internally here in the office, and that's for all of our clients. Then holding them accountable is okay. Not only okay, it's demanded and expected. So if you have the right talent, elite talent, hopefully, they want to be coached, they want to be better. They have goals that they put out in front. We have goals we put out in front. And if they're not doing the things to that standard to accomplish those said goals, then that has to be addressed. And that's going to get into one of the other topics that, and the questions we're going to go through is, like, one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make in business as an executive was getting rid of somebody I really liked, but they weren't living up to the standard that we had in our company from a production standpoint. And so it can go the other way if you don't hold people accountable, because your best talent is going to see that, and they're either going to leave you or they're not going to perform anymore.
Yeah. I love that.
It makes you perform better. Like, if I'm holding that guy accountable, then I better show up today and hold myself accountable to be the best.
And that is a surefire way into the doom loop of not holding your people accountable, because then you're not showing great leadership, and great people want to work for great leaders.
Yeah. The best players want to be coached.
Yeah,
they do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
And they want to play on winning teams.
Yep, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
John.
I mean, it's interesting. One of the things that we see, Keith, really consistently across all the places that we go is that A players want to work with other A players. And a lot of times, you see CEOs that have a hard time. And I grew up in family-owned business, so I kind of grew up with this where, my dad maybe struggled with making the hard people decisions because people have been with them for a long time, 30 years, and they showed up every day, and they maybe weren't great at what they did and weren't great people leaders, but they showed up every day. And so he rewarded that loyalty. But what it did is really create an inconsistent culture, and really good talent didn't want to work for those people.
Right.
And, that's, I've seen a lifetime of that. And it's really still true today, is that we see that all over the place, where it's really one of the most frustrating things as a coach that we deal with, is that we know what organizations need to do to get better. But a lot of times the people at the top, which is almost always a CEO, have a really difficult time making the hard people decisions. So they create this inconsistent culture. And then the A talent wants to have high standards because it matters to them. Like, there's a rules of how we operate, and we want to do great work, and we want to behave the same way, right? And there's this kind of breakdown that happens in those organizations if they don't do exactly what you talked about, which is somebody you like a lot, and it's maybe you've known for a while, and you like having a beer with them, but maybe they're not the right person for your team. Talk about that situation you went through. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was painful. It was one of the worst decisions, most challenging decisions I ever had to make. But I'll tell you about another decision that it led into that's very positive here in a second. We had an employee here for us who just was a good person, didn't have an easy life coming up. I think felt fortunate to be here and was a pleasure to be around, and everybody liked this person. but the work wasn't keeping up with the standard that we had and the growth that we were having. Was probably fine at a certain stage of our business, but wasn't keeping up with where we were at and where we were going. It was one of the first kind of pivotal decisions I had to make several years ago, where it's like, we're going to let this drag on, or we're going to pull the Band-Aid. So I talked to Jake, who I mentioned, and our COO, and they're waffling on it and said the fact that we have to talk about it already tells me what the decision is and what needs to be done. And so it was a Friday, and I said, we're going to let him go today. And they're like, well, who do you want to do? I was like, well, I'm going to do it because I want to show you guys like how this is going to be handled if this ever has to be addressed again, right? And so made the hard decision, had them in for a hard conversation, and it came from a positive place. I think it sets them free too. Like, you talk about your dad, loyalty can be good, but like sometimes you're also holding people back from a better future for themselves if they're not going to have a better opportunity with you. So you can't have the lens of just it's negative all the time. It's a positive thing in the end. Let them go. And you know what happened is we brought on another person completely separate about a year ago. The team saw that accountability that was held there with that person. Now they're self-policing everybody in the office. And this person who we hired, like I said, a year thereafter that firing, wasn't holding up to the standard again. And by the way, they hired this person. So the accountability goes to like, well, you're going to make the decision to bring on this person. You better be in a position to let them go too, right?
Yep.
So they can come to me and say, hey, they're not keeping up, and I think we got to let them go. I said, great, take care of it. And that was it. So it's just like one of those things. Sometimes you have to make the hard decision once and let everybody see that you're going to do the right thing and lead, and then they will, follow suit afterwards.
That's a great story, and it's a great point, because as leaders, we can't expect accountability without first holding ourselves accountable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to nip it in the butt as soon as you see it. You can't let it linger and drag on. It's just a toxic thing. It's like, we all have kids here. It's like, you see your kids do something wrong. Well, you can't wait a week to take care of it. It's like, you see it, you got to address it and teach them and get better.
Yeah. Yeah. It never goes away, right? I mean, if you try to sweep it under the rug or kick the can down the road, like this stuff, and it's crazy. Like, I just think that people have a hard time having hard conversations. I don't think hard conversations have to be hard. I don't, but I think a lot of people, like, the fear of conflict is such that they avoid a lot of those things. So I love the fact that you kind of ran at that. I think that's one of the most important things of being a high quality CEO is kind of running at the hard people decisions, because there's just going to be a lot of them, and you just have to do it. It's not going away.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I wish I could take all the credit for just coming up with the stuff on my own, because I've seen Coach D'Antonio, there's guys that we loved in the locker room, but the guy wasn't doing what he needed to be doing off the field and on the field in some capacities. And in front of the teams, like, you got to go. Never saw him again.
Really?
So you want to talk about like living up to a standard, doing the right thing? Like, you got to do that every day. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's awesome. So, Keith, here's a question for you. You talked about you started off your career here, and you were just an individual contributor, finding your way, and now here you are, CEO, working 80% on the business, which John and I love to hear. What would you tell other CEOs as a mind shift, that change of mindset that they would need to make to get from that point of just being buried in the business to truly working on the business and being that CEO?
Every great CEO I've ever studied, or any leader of an organization that I've ever studied, only good at a handful of things, right? Like, if you really were to like write it down, count on one hand that they're something that they're elite at, it might be two fingers, like that they're elite at two things maybe. But for some reason, guys like myself and a lot of other leaders and CEOs, they think that they can solve every issue universally across their organization, and somehow they're going to be better than the next guy and blah, 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 blah. That just means you're going to be average at all of it at the end of the day. And so what I bought into was, how do I be elite at my position? So back to sports, like a football team needs one elite quarterback, one elite running back, right? They go on the list. They one elite left tackle. And so like, one elite head coach. You don't need all. So I was like, well, this is I'm going to play this role. I'm going to play it. I'm going to be elite at these things that help our organization be great, and delegate the rest, but find people that are great at those things that you can't do or won't do or aren't good at, and have them fill those seats. And I'll tell you, like I was joking about myself being not tech savvy. Kim's better at setting all this stuff up than I am. Like, I don't know how to do this, right? Like, there's just people that are better, and she's better at multitasking than I am with a lot of things. And so you just have to delegate your life and your world into anything that's not being a lead at what you're, that's going to help your organization grow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What are those things for you that you've identified as a CEO that you think you're a lead at?
I think holding people accountable, that's a strength of mine. I think in setting a tone and a standard of the expectation, not only for what the business is supposed to accomplish, but also I demand a lot of myself personally. And I think I try to pour that into people too. I tell them, like, you're here half the time, but you're also outside these walls half the time. Let's be elite in our life, not just in our business. The goal setting that we have is always around with our team. Like, every team member has goals internally, externally, and for the business. And I hold them accountable to those things. So I think the leadership dynamic there, the accountability, I don't mind confrontation, which maybe helps a little bit sometimes. And then it's just the vision. I think there's this massive burning fire in my stomach to always be so much further along than we are, and to keep pushing that upwards. So those have probably been my strengths up to this point.
You said you're still 20% working in the business, right? As an advisor. And how do you balance that work with your CEO role?
Well, I'm trying to get to 100-0 so that we know. So I'm not to my goal yet. No, but
Okay.
I think I'll always have some percentage of my time spent on serving clients. One, I love it. I have a loyalty to my clients, especially the ones that were there in the beginning. So maybe, John, that's something we can talk about offline. Is that a good or a bad thing? But I just feel like the people that are there with me in the beginning deserve my time and attention the best I can give them. I'd compare it almost to like the CEO of a law firm. Like, you know that the CEO is running that big law firm, but you also know that he's giving attention to some of the firm's bigger clients or some of his original clients. And that's kind of the seat that I'm in. But I love like being in the weeds on the strategy too, of, what somebody with the high net worth that we've been there from the beginning is looking to do. One of my former athletes who's retired from the NFL, he's buying a house because he just got a big coaching job in the NFL too. It's like, I like just kind of helping them through life and succeeding. So I don't know if I'll ever get out of that service side completely.
Yeah. It's hard.
And that's probably
Yeah,
detrimental
it's
to my business, right? By the way, like in some
Mhm.
capacity. And I think I know that, but I don't know. It's tough. That's
It's
maybe that's my doom loop.
That's pretty consistent, though. I think one of the things that I see, and I think Glenn does too, is that I see people that they want to be an architect, and then they they
Yeah.
start a company, and
Yeah.
I'm not doing architecture as much anymore. I'm architecting a company and running a company. Or there's a variety of different things that I see. Like I do a lot of work in like construction, so I like building projects or knocking stuff down. I like that, and then as my business grows, I don't spend as much time in the field doing that stuff. I'm not, interacting with those people. So I'm now actually running the business. And I think that's a hard transition for a lot of people where, I got into something because they're really passionate about that. And now I'm running a business versus working in that discipline. That's a hard thing. So, I mean, you're in the middle of that right now, right? And you're saying that you think for some portion of your time still going to be managing clients, whatever that is, probably never get to 100%. I think that's a pretty normal transition that we see all the time for sure.
Yeah. The downside where I see it's not done well is that's a rationalization for the CEO to kind of roll up their sleeves and pound their chest and say, here, let me show you how to do this. One of the things that I did find myself doing when I would slip into the doom loop is I would do that.
So you talked about this kind of burning desire as an organization, you as a CEO, like where you want to go with this thing and how that inferno that you have in you. And I can relate to that because I've been very similar to that. One of the things that we kind of see constantly is this concept from a guy named Ben Hardy, who talked about the gap and the gain, which is as CEOs, we're always looking at the gap of where we at and where we have to get to. And that gap just drives us crazy because we're never where we need to be as fast as we want to get there. And it keeps us awake at night, which isn't healthy, versus the gain, which is what progress are we making, day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, whatever that is. And what progress are we making? So how do you balance that as a CEO that's a really driven guy that wants to do great things? How do you balance that gap that you feel about where you want to be versus the progress you made since you bought Career and become the CEO and done what you've done?
Oh man, talking about the ultimate, the tug and pull is one. I think we're all blessed on this call, and a lot of people hopefully listen. Is like, you're blessed if you have that burning flame in your gut, and I think it's important to realize that most people don't have that fire just constantly brewing inside of them. And so that's been kind of a superpower for me, is like, even as an athlete, like I always want to pour gas on that. And sometimes as a competitor, you create narrative to make yourself feel like you're not as far along or whatever it is. So that you pour more gas on that to continue to motivate yourself and continue to grow. I'm not saying that's healthy or good, or it's certainly not balanced, but it's what I know and it's what I do. I think what's helped me as of late is that I've had a lot of gratitude and I've reflected a lot. So you hear these people say these quotes, but it's like, right now you have the blessings that you prayed for 5 years ago, and somehow you're still not satisfied with where you're at. And so I think, like, for me, I got four healthy kids, a great wife, great life at home, doing a lot of things personally that are really exciting to us in our life. We got a business that, for all intents and purposes, is thriving and growing. And so if you're to share where you're at with your 5-year past self, like, they'd be like, what are you stressed? Like, what are you complaining about? Right.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
See, I think reflection and gratitude is good.
Yeah.
And if whether you're religious or not, it's not important to, for this call, but like for me, that part matters to me, a little spiritual connection there. So there's a lot of gratitude I have with the blessings in my life. That's been helpful from that, like, tug and pull a little bit.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. That is a great exercise. I do that with my clients, especially when I see where they're getting kind of bogged down in the process, or with what they would perceive as lack of progress. Is to say, well, let's just take a second and let's step back, exactly like you suggest, Keith. It's like, what have we done? What's been part of this journey? And it's usually incredible, especially if you're involving your whole team, your leadership team with it, just to see the amount of things like, hey, we did this, we've got process in place, we've got these people, we've got this client. Exactly your point, to say, like, wow, back then, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago, we would have died to be in the position we're in now. Right?
Yeah, totally.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I probably could have dreamed of it, to be honest, And so one thing that's, like, you talk about a gauge of success sometimes, like, for me, a big pillar, like I said, is like about caring for our people. And I want everybody here to be very successful, whether that's a client or a person working here. I want everybody to be hyper successful. And I was reflecting on it 2 months ago. I was like, I could count on 2 hands, which felt pretty good because we're not like a massive, I have hundreds of people working for us. People buying houses, building houses, their lives are growing, kids are going to private school. Like, everybody's just doing good. Like, for the business to be providing an opportunity to their family to be able to do that, it's like one of the most rewarding things. So, like, that's part of the reflection of gratitude, is like, yeah, we all want to be further along, but like, life's good. That's
That's great. Congratulations on your success so far. So, it brings me a question. There's I'm sure, a misconception around, well, wealth management, it's commoditized. It's pretty much all the same, and it's just a relationship business based on, who your person is. But I know that's not true. And I know that the company you've built is based on, probably a lot more than that. So would you mind sharing a little bit about what's that value that Carrera provides to your clients in your space?
Yeah, you nailed it. So people are going to commoditize us until we don't become a commodity. And so, like, I think about, like, how do you just make yourself a non-commodity? Because you can say, oh, we perform really well, which we do. And we have a track record of success there. And we have great people that work here. You can say all these things. We provide all these services, right? Like, and people just go in one year and out the other because the last guy told them the same thing. And so I don't try to drive that down people's throat. I try to show them what we're all about and to perform. And what we really, like, drive home is our client service, like our customer service. And you look at some of the greatest companies in the world, whether it's like, if it's Amazon or if it's Apple or if it's Disney, what do they care about? Providing the greatest customer experience on the planet. And so that's something we've really dove into. And it's little things, it's big things.
Yeah.
It's how we answer the phone. It's how fast we return a phone call. Like, we have very strict mandates around how we get back to people, communicate with people, a way of doing it, how they're greeted when they come through the door, what they're left with when they leave, how they're treated, how we check in on them, how we're providing information to them. We're using AI. We're touching them all the time. whether it's communication on the phone or over an email or over a newsletter, whatever you name it, we're constantly in front of people and making them feel like they're the only client we got. Like that's kind of like one of the things, like make your client feel like they're the only one here at the firm and that they're the most important thing to this firm all the time. And so regardless of how big or small they are, and I've had clients say that to us unsolicited, and that's like the most proud moment that I have because that's what I'm trying to create to them. That's how I try to differentiate, and I'm sure we're going to try other ways to try to differentiate as we go forward. But that's one that's been able to help us separate because you'd be surprised. Well, you probably aren't surprised. You guys are great coaches and have been CEOs. Like you see, like so many people are asleep at their wheel in their business, especially in customer service and client service. If they scale, they get to a place they're like, oh, I got my clients. I got no. I'm going to go golfing. Like, we don't golf around here. We work. We take care of people. Like, we're here.
No golfing.
Yeah, that's in the handbook. No golfing. Those kids.
I saw something from somebody I know is on LinkedIn, and they said one of the things they screen for in the interview process is what's your handicap. And if their handicap's under a certain number, then they'll hire them because they said, we know if you're a good golfer, you got to spend a lot of time golfing. So if you're like a 12 or under, they won't hire you because you're spending more time golfing than you're working.
One of my biggest clients is a big theory on like if you're under, I think he said a 10, there's no way you're a successful businessman because you're golfing way too much, you know. He says he's joking, but I don't think he's joking.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting concept for sure. Well, a question kind of off topic or not in our questions, and we can edit this out if we need to, but I'd love to get your perspective of how you see AI shaping the wealth management investment world today.
Yeah, well, it's making us a lot better. The way you're able to filter down information in such a fast way, to communicate with people in such a clear and concise way. I think it's like the greatest blessing to our business ever is the utilization and implementation of artificial intelligence. Could it be intimidating if you don't embrace it? I think certainly, but I think if you can harness it and control it, which I think we're doing, it's making us much more efficient. It's helping our performance, it's helping our communication, it's helping our client service, it's helping everything. And it's not taking away jobs. It's only making people better and performing faster and more efficiently. So I love it. What's interesting though is that it's evolving so fast. It's like I say, I love it now. You know, what am I going to think about it in a year from now? I don't know. But that's back to the commodity thing. Like people would say, well, we can use artificial intelligence to do what you guys do. Maybe for certain types of clientele, I believe that, but not for also a different certain type of clientele. I don't believe artificial intelligence will ever be able to give them what those, if I can kind of move upstream of the types of clients we're working with, there's just a human interaction component that I don't think is ever going to go away, a client service component. And so we've gone all in on that, and we feel really good about how we're positioned with AI.
Yeah. Good answer. I like that. I think I heard this phrase from someone who was in the fine dining space, but what they said is they seek to automate the ordinary so they can elevate the sublime. And I think of that way around AI of those kind of the task, the redundant task, or the kind of work you're talking about, the administrative kind of work. If we can use AI to automate that, to make that easier, then our people can spend more time doing the added value stuff, working directly with clients, asking them the questions, caring for them, making the right recommendations, using AI to help power those recommendations and help power the work.
All right, Keith, so let me ask you this one. In 10 years, where do you see the wealth management? Who wins in 10 years, and what do they look like?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a bold, not so bold prediction was in reference to maybe what I was talking about a couple minutes earlier. It was like, I can see a place where in the wealth management space, artificial intelligence has come along and commoditized the clientele, that I don't want to be just fighting about numbers, but let's say that client that's $1 million and below or $2 million and below of investable assets that just needs very straightforward kind of financial planning. That client probably doesn't even want to talk to somebody a whole lot. I could see artificial intelligence wiping out businesses that are built around supporting those clientele. But I think it's going to make, guys like myself become even more differentiated because we'll be competing against a robot, essentially, not a client service-based business for clients that are essentially maybe that 5 or 10 million guy and above. Maybe it's probably 10 million and above is probably what everything's going to happen. But I think we can still continue to differentiate for the 10 million and above guy in assets to manage. So I think, to answer your question, I think artificial intelligence is going to take a lot of the market share from advisors that are servicing that 5 to 10 million and below guy. That's what I think's going to happen.
It's interesting. If you look at investable assets in North America, like what percentage of that falls below that you think would be really commoditized or using AI as their wealth management tool?
Well, yeah, it depends on how we look at the
relationship.
market share, right? Is it like by number of households? So if you did number of households, that's a significant market share. Probably 80 is my guess, is that 5 million and below kind of household by just volume. But the amount of dollars that are above, let's call it 10 million. So that 5 to 10 is kind of a gray area for me. But the amount of dollars in that 10 and above is significant. And kind of what's happening is there's a massive transition of wealth that's occurring, right? From not only money being inherited by families and people just passing away, that's what we all do, but there's advisors that are old in our business. Like the average age of an advisor in our industry is like, 63 years old, which is, it's crazy.
Wow.
So there's a massive transition. And there's not a lot of people from 63 down to like 45. Like there's a massive gap. So I see this as like just massive opportunity for guys like ourselves. I think there's just a ton of money that's going to move hands over this next 10 years. And we're trying to position ourselves to be the ones that is managing that.
I have to imagine in your business, your firm probably does have a fair amount of business owners or previous business owners, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to get your take on not only your own personal observations in the CEO seat but also from having seen that within your client base. But if you were to write the next edition of the CEO playbook or help us write that, which you are, by the way, just by being here, what would you say that the 2 to 3 most useful pieces of advice that you would give a CEO for them to stay out of the CEO doom loop?
Be really good at self-reflecting would be number one. Like know who you are, what you're all about, what your strengths and weaknesses are. That's number one. Like be very real with yourself. Go all in on your strengths, delegate your weaknesses.
Yeah,
so be a lead of those, 2 to 5 things. And then surround yourself with elite talent in every facet of your life. And I mean everyone, like hopefully your spouse is elite. Hopefully your COO is elite. Hopefully your priest is elite. Whatever you're going to see for your spiritual guidance is elite. Like every player on your team, every friend that you have should be hopefully providing a ton of elite level value in your life in some capacity. I'm not saying they're more successful in finance, but maybe there's something that they have gotten going on at home or something. Everybody should be bringing value in your life, in my opinion, in some capacity. I think then the last one is just like, never think that you got it all figured out. Like be curious, try to learn all the time, surround yourself with people who are also curious. Those are the smartest people on the planet, people that don't think they got it figured out and they're always trying to learn. So that's something I'm always trying to focus in on. That's been helpful.
Yeah. Those are all great, Keith. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, those are awesome. Yeah, those are different than what anybody else, right? I don't think we've had anybody had those 4, maybe one of the 4, but not any of the 4. So
yeah, and especially surround yourself with elite people in all areas of your life, right? Because you're exactly right. We're not just one-dimensional business people. We're comprised holistically of the people we are and the people we interact with. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love the self-awareness thing. I mean, that's a huge one, right? I think we're all limited in some way. And if we don't really want to know where we're limited or where we're good or we're not good, I think that's a limiting factor for us being really happy and making a difference too. So I agree with that 100%. It means we got to be willing to hear other people and what their perspective is of us also.
That goes back to the open-minded part, being curious, right? Is, that self-awareness, but also pursuing greatness by just knowing you don't got it all figured out.
Yeah.
So there's a humility component too, right? Which CEOs struggle with because they're in that position for a reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The balance for sure.
I know I was victim to that for sure. All right, cool.
Good stuff.
Well,
thank you guys.
Thank you so much. This was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
thank you.
conversation.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it.